Good morning, Wabash. Speaking today at Pioneer Chapel will be Joe Reitz with his talk titled, Winning on Sundays, Life Lessons from the NFL. Joe Reitz is a Carmel, Indiana native and proud father of 8 children, Juliana, AJ, Virginia, Johnny, Hannah, Pete, and twins, Ruth and Samuel. He and his wife, Jill, whom he met at Western Michigan University, are active parishioners at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish, where faith and family remain the center of their lives. Joe's athletic career began at Western Michigan, where he competed in both football and basketball, becoming one of the most decorated players in school history on the hardwood and the field. A 4-year starter who holds the record for most games started, ranks 5th all-time in basketball scoring, and earned 3 All-MAC selections along with 2 academic All-American honors. He went on to play 9 years in the NFL as an offensive lineman, spending time with the Baltimore Ravens and most notably the Indianapolis Colts, where he started at all 5 offensive line positions over the course of his career. His time with the Colts was highlighted by being named the 2015 Ed Block Courage Award winner and the 2016 Walter Payton Man of the Year. Since retiring from football, Joe has channeled the same discipline into his second career as a certified financial planner and partner at McGinley Wrights Financial, a private client group of Northwestern Mutual. He holds a finance degree from Western Michigan, an MBA from IU's Kelley School of Business, and his CFP designation. Joe also remains deeply connected to the Colts organization as part of their media and radio team, and volunteers as a coach in both football and basketball for Guerin Catholic High School and the Our Lady of Mount Carmel CYO program. Let's give a warm welcome to Joe.
Thank you. Good morning, Wabash.
Good morning, Joe.
Well, it's an honor to be here. It seems like my affiliation with Wabash is getting deeper by the day. My business partner, Mike McGinley, is a proud Wabash graduate. My brother-in-law, Brian Shelbourne, who is here today, went to Wabash. The first time I stepped on campus was like 2011. Brian was playing basketball for the Little Giants, and I went to a game, and there's all these dudes with no shirt on in these red and white weird overalls, and I loved them. I mean, you talk about getting inside the other team's head. And so when Father Michael Bauer from the Newman Center reached out to me about speaking, and he brought the Sphinx Club, I'm like, is that the dudes that would just be yelling at the other team in the overalls? He's like, that's them. So it's kind of all come full circle for me. But who am I? I am a proud Christian. I'm a husband to Jill. I'm a father to 8. And you know, God has blessed me abundantly in my life and has given me so many gifts. And it's my view that we need to be stewards of those gifts. When somebody asks you to do something, you just say yes and you figure it out. And so for me, you know, my personal mission statement, what do I wake up every day that I want to do? It's to be a steward of the gifts God's given me to serve my wife, to serve my family, to serve others, and to serve the Catholic Church. That's what I try to do. But why am I really here? I'm really here because it's an unbelievable opportunity to speak to you men. Right? I am so passionate about true, authentic masculinity. Not what the world tells us a man is. Right? They're going to dumb it down for us in terms of fame and money and power and sex, and that ain't what a man is. Right? The world needs real men. Men who think, men who laugh, men who cry, men who pray. Men who are okay being vulnerable, who are telling people, hey, it's okay, I got some stuff going on. Guess what? We all got stuff going on. And I think it's a tendency for us as men sometimes, we don't want to share our emotions, and so we think we're the only one going through it. We're all going through stuff. We all have struggles that we deal with. And what's important as men is we recognize that and we're there for each other, and we do it in a real authentic way, right? I've always felt like men don't necessarily just want to like sit around the circle and like everybody go and share your feelings and how you're doing, right? I don't think that's real. But men want another guy that they can talk to openly and honestly and be like, hey, bro, something's not right for me. I want you to hold me accountable. That's what we need. You know, we're not called to go out this individually. When Christ sent out the apostles, how did he send them? 2 by 2. We're meant to walk this journey together. Does that make sense? And ultimately, that's what love is. The true definition of love is willing the good of another. I'm going to say that again. The definition of love is willing the good of another. Love is not you do you and you do whatever makes you happy. That's not it. We're called for deeper. God knows what true happiness is. He showed us the way. And willing the good of another means I'm strong enough to help somebody out. If they're not doing something they should be called out for it. Fraternal correction. That's important as men. And that's why I love sports so much, because there's no greater petri dish for that than sports, and especially the game of football. Show of hands, who plays a sport here? Wow. It's beautiful. You know, there is nothing like the authentic brotherhood that a locker room brings. There's just not. You know, I played for 9 years in the NFL, 2 years with the Baltimore Ravens, 7 with the Indianapolis Colts. I had a lot of teammates. 4 years of college basketball. I go from Hamilton County, Indiana to Western Michigan, and a year later I have a roommate. One grew up in inner city Detroit. One grew up in Sudan in Africa, via Toronto, came to the United States. You talk about understanding life. I'm like, I see the world through this lens. They threw it through something completely differently. And you know the beauty about sports? It's a great meritocracy. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, rich, poor, where you're from. All that matters is can you play? And you guys know that. It lets you have open and honest conversations. You know, there's so much crisis and divisiveness in our world, and especially in the United States of America today. And I say, man, people could learn a lot from a football locker room. You just could. You know why? Because there's genuine love there. People want to will the good of another. I see Coach Gilbert back there. When he's yelling at you guys, it's because he loves you, right? And I would argue the more a coach yells at you means the more that they care, because they're trying to will the good of you. And when you have common suffering, when you're going through stuff together, that builds strong bonds. Bonds that you guys will have for life. And so take a minute to pause and recognize the goodness of Wabash College and all the parts that are associated with it. Because, who's a senior? Raise your hand. All right, hands down. Juniors, sophomores, freshmen. So in a short time, you guys are going out to the real world. And many of you will get jobs in corporate America. And I'm just telling you, it's not like it is right here, right? The brothers that you form, the authentic relationships that you have will carry you on for the rest of your life. And it's really hard to find those when you get outside of college, especially a college that is unique and is as high achieving as Wabash is. Does that make sense? You guys can give me a little like feedback. Does that make sense? Yeah, do me a favor, by the way. Like, let's sit up a little bit straighter. Let's get our shoulders back. Let's puff our chest out. I get it. It's 11:30. You may have gotten up early today. Maybe not. Maybe you just rolled out of bed. But I think when I was with the Baltimore Ravens and the Colts, we had a sign hanging up in the locker room. Sorry, not in the indoor facility. It was a giant Lombardi trophy, and it had W.I.N. on it. And so at first glance, it says win. We want to win the Lombardi. We want to win the Super Bowl, and that's true. But what it stood for is what's important now. And the only way to achieve any goal or something that you really want to do is you got to be where your feet are. You got to be right here. So if it's 11:30 on Thursday and we're here in the chapel, you ain't anywhere else. And so all you can do is try to focus the best you can. And I think our body posture sometimes, we let that slip, right? That's so important to us. A confident position, a position of power, a position of understanding. And so I just encourage you guys. And plus, if you sit up a little bit straighter, nobody's going to fall asleep. If somebody falls asleep today, I'm just going to tell you, we're going to meet in the parking lot afterwards. Okay? That would be somewhat embarrassing for me. So a couple quick life lessons from the NFL that I want to share with you guys. First thing I'm going to do is share a story. So there's a boy a long, long time ago in Greece, and he's talking to the wise philosopher Socrates. And he says, Socrates, what is the key to success? And Socrates says, you really want to know? And the boy says, yes. He says, well, meet me tomorrow right here in this same spot, and I'll tell you. The boy goes home. He's all excited. He can't sleep at night. He's like, the wisest philosopher there ever was, and maybe ever will be, is going to tell me what the key to success is. So the next morning, he's all excited. He wakes up and he meets him, and Socrates says, you ready? And the boy says, yeah. And he start walking down towards a river. And they get to kind of the base of the river, and Socrates says, all right, we're going in. And him and the boy walk side by side into the river. And the boy's a little concerned now, a little unnerved. What's going on? You know, the water's at their feet, then it's at their knees, then it's at their waist. Kind of glances at him, and Socrates says, keep going. All of a sudden, the water's at their shoulders. And Socrates, right, those Greeks now, they were big, strong men. He takes his hands, puts them on the boy's shoulders, and dunks him under the water. And he's holding him underwater. And it's 5 seconds, 10, 15, 20. The boy is struggling. He's struggling to fight up. 20, 25. The boy starts thinking in his mind, I'm going to die. This crazy old man's going to kill me. And finally, after about 30 seconds, he lifts the boy out of the water. The boy, he's gasping for air. He realizes, well, he wasn't going to kill me. Finally, after a couple minutes, he catches his breath after the fear of drowning. And Socrates looks at him right in the eye and he says, when you were in that water, what did you want more than anything in the world? And the boy says, I wanted air. And he looks at him again. He says, when you want success as bad as you wanted air, you'll find it. There is no other key. Anybody ever heard that story before? It's a great one. But it's so true, right? We want success. If we really want something in life, if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way to make it happen. But the thing is, there's no shortcuts. There's no magic bullet. There's no magic pill to make it happen. And so a couple things for me that I really found, and I think I realized these some in the moment, but more now that I'm done and retired from the NFL, and I'm going to share those with you guys. Sound good? There's 3 and a bonus. So when you leave here, you just got to remember the 3 keys and the bonus. By the way, we are going to have some time for question and answer too. So if you think this talk is boring, I haven't seen a yawn yet, but one's probably coming. I really hope it doesn't happen. But after that, if you have a good question, I would love to answer it afterwards, and I'll answer anything you guys want to talk about. Sound good? Sir kind of makes me sound old, but it's good. You guys you're in unison. So I played 9 years in the NFL. I played 4 years of college basketball, didn't play a down of college football. My junior year, I was at Western Michigan University. Go Broncos. We're playing in the MAC tournament. And there's a scout from the Ravens, Lanil Vital, that just saw me play. And he calls my coach after the game and the season's over. And he says, hey, coach, I want to talk to you about that Reitz kid. He's like, well, his last name's Reitz, but yeah, go ahead. And he says, well, I saw him play. He was physical. He had broad shoulders, and he had a really big backside. We think he could be an NFL offensive lineman. And my coach says, well, he played in high school. He had scholarship offers coming out, and that really interested Baltimore. And so they kept an eye on me, came to a couple games my senior year. And when my season was done from Western Michigan, we went through the draft. I obviously didn't get drafted, but I signed as an undrafted free agent with the Ravens. I got paid a $1,000 signing bonus, and I'm like, shoot, I'm rolling. Let's go. And my goal was to just see how long I could make it. Could I make it a week? Could I make it a month? Could I make it a year? And I ended up lasting 9 years in the NFL. So I went from 250-pound college basketball player with a six-pack to 320-pound fat offensive lineman. Thankfully, I got married, and my wife stayed with me through that transformative change. But I had to relearn football. I had to relearn what it meant to play offensive line. And, I'm so excited. I go out to Baltimore, and I get my helmet. I'm lacing up my cleats, and I'm looking around and seeing all these guys. And I'm like, this is unbelievable, right? And just thanking the good Lord for giving me this opportunity. And then I go to my first mini camp practice, and I get down in a stance. And all of a sudden, like, I see the Ravens defense in real time. And there's Terrell Suggs and Trevor Price, who went to like 4 Pro Bowls, and Haloti Ngata, who was like a 350-pound Samoan man, still the strongest man I ever played against. And there's Ray Lewis, and there's Bart Scott, and there's Ed Reed, and there's Chris McAllister. It's like Pro Bowler after Pro Bowler after Pro Bowler. And I'm like, man, what in the world did I get myself into? My point being, I struggled a lot. So I'm on the practice squad, which is kind of like the JV team, but you don't actually dress for games. You know, sometimes you like sit in a box or like you're in the stands. So I'm at a Ravens game at the concession line, and somebody's like, what do you do? I'm like, well, I play for the Ravens. They're like, well, why aren't you out on the field? I'm like, I'm kind of on the team. I got cut 5 times in the NFL. I got cut from the Ravens. I flew down to Miami. I was so bad there, they cut me after a day. But by the grace of God, it led me back to Indianapolis. And I'm so thankful, because when you think about prayers, God has 3 answers for prayers. Yes, not yet, or I have something better in mind. And for me, I prayed daily to give me a chance to make it in Baltimore. That's what Joe would have wanted, right? That was Joe's path. And God said, I got something better in mind. And that's going to happen for you guys. There's so often you think we have this path, that we think this wants to be our will, and God's will is so much greater. And it's hard to see in the moment when you're struggling and when you're suffering, but at the end of the day, we got to trust in His goodness. So I come back to Indianapolis. I'm able to carve out a 7-year career. I played with Peyton Manning for 2 years, Andrew Luck for 5, but it was 3 years, 4 months, and 10 days. 3 years, 4 months, 10 days from the time I signed with the Ravens till I played in a real NFL game. And that was hard. There were a lot of lonely nights, and I had nowhere to go but, on my knees in prayer to God, and thankfully calling my wife, who we were dating long distance at the time, and they would build me back up. They were my rocks through it all. And it was a beautiful journey. I got to play with so many great guys. But, 3 things, 3 lessons. The first one, fail greatly. Fail greatly. Struggle is good. Sacrifice is good. We don't want to go through it. It's not fun. But you talk to any successful person, they will tell you they learn more from their failures than they did from their successes. Kobe Bryant has a great quote. He talks about failing forward. He says, I either won or I learned. I never lost. And so if you can fail and you can be okay putting your pride aside and going after something and giving it everything that you have and knowing that you're failing, if you do that with the right frame of mind and you continue to move forward and get up off the mat, it will ultimately be the biggest driver of success in your life. So, I'm not telling you to fail your exam, right? But be bold and fail greatly. Make sense? The second one, nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. That's Ralph Waldo Emerson. There's a lot of other guys that say it different ways. I played with arguably the most passionate, enthusiastic player in the history of the NFL in Ray Lewis. And it was unbelievable to watch him on a daily basis. I mean, you got within 24 hours of game day, it's like he's in his own little world. It's like, I'm not getting anywhere close to Ray Lewis. Actually, before every game with the Ravens and every team I played on, we always would say the Our Father and pray, which I thought was really cool. So one time I found myself standing next to Ray. And so we're holding hands and praying the Our Father. And he's like squeezing my hands. As he's praying, I think I broke probably a couple knuckles. I for sure wasn't going to pull my hand away from him. But he just had such a passion for the game of football. He had such an enthusiasm for not only football, but life. And so just getting to watch him every day and see how he approached life, I truly believe that. Nothing great is ever achieved without enthusiasm. You guys know that? You walk into a room, you're either bringing juice or you're sucking that juice away from the room. Is it easy to show up every day and be on and be high energy and be enthusiastic? No. It's simple, but not easy. But you're successful people, you're movers and shakers in the world. They attack the world every day with enthusiasm. I played for John Harbaugh. He talks about it too, right? Lesson from his dad, Jack. Jim says it, all the Harbaughs say it. We're going to attack the day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. You hear it, it's kind of corny. It is, but it's true. You wake up every day and you attack it with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. you'll be successful. Make sense? So fail greatly, have enthusiasm, and the last one. This is the real key. So listen in good. This is like the Socrates moment. You guys ready for this? Should I get in closer to the mic right? Oh, wow. That's a lot louder. Hopefully they're catching this recording. Maybe not. Maybe beneficial for all. But the secret is effort. It is. Again, that's so simple, but really hard to do day after day after day after day. You know, in life, we don't rise to the level of our goals and what we want to do. We fall to the level of our habits. Peyton Manning, even though Tom Brady's got some more Super Bowls, I will argue is the greatest quarterback in NFL history. Does that mean you guys agree? Ooh, I like it. Well, you should just be snapping when I'm asking all these questions. And I was lucky to experience Peyton and play with him for 2 years and watch him operate. You know what Peyton Manning did? He was the first guy at the facility every day, and he was the last guy to leave. And he did that for 18 years. And when you do that, when you have consistent habits, when you just outwork everybody, when your effort is greater than the rest of the world or your peers, you're destined to do great things. You know, everybody walks into a locker room usually. You get there at like 6:30 in the morning in the NFL, and most guys are in baggy shorts and a t-shirt, you're kind of rolling out of bed. First day I go into the Colts facility, I walk there. Peyton Manning is in khakis, like a flannel button-down shirt with like loafers on. I mean, it was like 6 in the morning. It looked like he'd been there for 3 hours, like he was holding some meeting. And I'm like, dude, this dude's different, you know? And he permeated that across the entire Colts organization. You know, when he walked around you in the locker room, you'd sit up a little bit straighter. You know, you messed up a route at practice or messed something up. You know, he'd come back to you a couple days later and be like, hey, you messed that play up? Yeah. Well, maybe next time when we're at our lunch hour, get off your cell phone and get in your playbook a little bit more. Right? He just had this unbelievable standard of success that he left for everybody else. But you know why he was able to do it? You know why he had the confidence to do it? It ain't because he was very talented, and he was. It's because he knew day in and day out that he worked harder than everybody else and spent more time than anybody else. In the most competitive job market in the world, which is the NFL, he continued to outwork people. Does that make sense? So we got fail greatly, live life with some juice or some enthusiasm, and at the end of the day, the secret is effort. So those are the three keys. But you know what the bonus key is? We, as creatures of God, as men, are wired to want to be happy. Show of hands, who wants to be happy? Everybody, right? And the biggest thing I learned in the NFL is what brings happiness. You know, when I'm your age, or I'm a younger kid, I'm like, I have a dream of making it to the NFL. And I made it. I prayed daily for the chance to make it to the NFL. And then you get that opportunity, and what do? I complain about how hard training camp is. You know, God gives us these prayers, and then we complain about it. And I thought, well, if I just make it to the NFL, if I just make it to be a starter, if I make some good money and we got some money in our bank account, my family's got security, I'm going to be happy. But you're not. It's the lie that the world will tell you, that something, money, power, fame, can bring you happiness. Dude, I played next to guys who were getting a check for $1 million a week for 17 weeks. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? And guess what? They complain just like you and me. I've played with guys who have won the Super Bowl, and they've shared that the next day you wake up crying in tears because you're not happy. Because you thought what you've worked for your whole life is going to fill the void that you have deep inside your soul, and then that's going to do it, and you're not happy. So how do we find happiness? Real quick, there's 4 levels of happiness. 1, instant gratification. We buy something, we eat a good steak, we drink a cold beer, only if we're 21, we're happy, right? But that goes away. The second is success, personal achievement. We do well in school, we get an A, a professor sends us an email. We play well in football, we get our name in the paper, we have some success. That makes us happy, but that also is fleeting. So the third is contribution to others. That's why you see so many people that make all this money late in their life, they become great philanthropists and they give it all back. because they've had all the success in the world and huge bank accounts, but they're not happy. And so you think by giving it to others, that will make you happy. And that makes us happier. Level 3, living life for others. It's better to give than to receive. That'll make us happy. But does that satisfy the longings in our heart? The answer is no. The highest level of happiness, the only thing that can truly fill the deep void we have in all of our hearts, is unconditional love from another. Unconditional love from another. I love my wife and she loves me. But our love is not unconditional. We're not capable of human beings as giving that, even though we want to. The only person that can do it is God, our Creator. And I think the biggest lesson, the most important lesson I learned from the NFL, wasn't anything about success and enthusiasm and effort and failing greatly. It was that there's a longing in all of our hearts that can only be filled by God. And so for me, I fell in love 3 times in my life. I fell in love with sports when I was a kid. I fell in love with my wife, Jill, when I was in college. And when I retired and was kind of going through the next phase of life and figuring things out, I wouldn't say it was like a midlife crisis or anything, but I fell in love again with the Catholic Church. I fell in love with the church. I fell back in love with my relationship with Christ. And I've been on that journey now for 7 or 8 years, and guess what? Life ain't perfect. Life's hard. There's a lot of days I wake up and I got to complain about things. I have anxiety, I have worry, I have stress. But days when I wake up and I'm grateful and I thank God and I spend time in prayer and I spend time in the Adoration Chapel and I get to Mass on Sundays and I live a sacramental life, I have unbelievable peace. Because at the end of the day, we all want happiness and peace, and that truly can only come from our relationship with Christ. Make sense? Give me a couple snaps. I like those snaps. All right, well, that concludes my talk. I'm going to come down.
A few final announcements. On Friday, rugby will have a home tournament playing Purdue and Ball State. On Friday and Saturday, baseball will have games against Monmouth. This weekend, track and field will be competing at the NCAC Indoor Championship meet. And finally, wrestling will be competing at the NCAA National Tournament qualifying meet. Now, would you please rise and join me in singing Old Wabash? Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da, from the